Hello and good day. I am Mr. J. I always like to start my class with a corny dad joke, and so today's is this. Guess who I bumped into on my way to get my glasses fixed? Everybody. Ba-dum-bum. All right, if you can take two deep healing breaths with me, in through the nose, out through the mouth, preferably with your eyes closed, but if you're driving while you're listening to this, I don't advise you do that. In through the nose. And one more, let's calm that nervous system. All right. I've compiled about a dozen or so do's and don'ts for behavior or behaving after discovering your spouse has a sex addiction. So this class is pretty specific to those with sex addiction and those that are partnered to those having a sex addiction. There's going to be a very short class. It's by no means an all-inclusive or extensive list. But like I said, just a dozen or so do's and don'ts following the discovery. Now, this doesn't necessarily have to be for addicts in general. It could be for any acting out, but the class is more geared towards addicts. Typically, learning about your partner's sexual addiction leaves you in a daze, stunned, hurt, uncertain, and unable to fully assimilate and accept what has happened. Whatever your feelings are, the following list of things to do and not to do hopefully will be helpful to you. And I'm going to quickly take a tea break because I woke up with a little sore throat. Okay. For some of you, you're way past discovery, so these might not apply. Some of these might still apply, or if not, use them for future knowledge, although hopefully you don't need them in the future. Number one, you find out an affair, infidelity, some type of secrets, or an addiction from your spouse, your partner, or your significant other. You have to really enforce an STD test. These are everything from syphilis, gonorrhea, HIV, you name it. Sex addicts are careless about sex. As soon as you learn that your partner has been unfaithful, even if you just think it's online, you should visit a clinic or your primary care physician, explaining the situation and asking for a full STD clinic. Now, this is for you, but certainly also your partner, regardless if you guys are going to come back together or not. But most certainly, this is something you should do. People that act out, they have this tendency, especially addicts, where they push the lines, they push the limits. It's like, okay, this time I'm just going to say hi to somebody. Next time I'm going to give them my number. Now we're just holding hands. Then it's like, even though they're not supposed to be doing anything, eventually they do push boundaries and it can lead into sex. And then after that, the high comes and the affair fogs or the addiction sets in. And then there's times you're almost putting yourself in like legal jeopardy or serious situations where, STDs are definitely a probability. Which leads me into number two, don't have unprotected sex with your partner. No matter what the sex addict tells you, you absolutely should not have unprotected sex until you feel confident the addict has a full and clean STD screen and he or she has been faithful to you since the screening. And I understand that last part can be difficult because you're like, well, how do I know they've been faithful? But make sure that there's no unprotected sex if you do find out somebody has stepped outside of the relationship. Do investigate your legal rights, even if you plan to stay together. No matter what, you always want to have tools in your toolbox. Listen, I am a very, very big advocate for couples staying together. And I hear some of the most extreme circumstances every day. But even with those, people still decide to stay together. So I'm a big advocate for couples to stay together if that's what they choose. But no matter what, you have to empower yourself. And how you empower yourself is giving yourself choices and by putting these things in your tool belt. So for instance, stay, rebuild. Absolutely. I'm all for that. But still do your due diligence and say, okay, where am I financially, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, yada, yada. Because I'm choosing to stay. I'm empowering myself with the choice to stay, but I know at any point I can leave. That's a choice I'm giving me. Planning to stay together doesn't mean you will. You should always find out your rights in a potential separation, including financial concerns, property concerns, and parenting issues if there are children, involved in the relationship. Don't jump to any long-term decisions. This is one of the biggest regrets I hear a lot is, I wish I would have left when I did. I wish I would have stayed when I did. I wish I would have thought, people, whether you're going to stay or leave or whatever you're going to do, fine, great, and dandy, but you don't have to do it today. I mean, unless you're in an abusive situation. So whatever decision you're going to make, you can make it tomorrow, in 2 days, in 2 weeks, in 2 months, or 2 years. Making it in 2 months, 2 years is going to better equip you and set you up for success. So don't jump to any decision making immediately. Making life-changing decisions when you're at the height of your pain, hurt, or anger is never a good idea. And this includes retaliation affairs or revenge sex. This includes life-changing decisions such as whether to break up, file for divorce, leave with the kids. The general rule of thumb is no major changes whatsoever in the first 6 months of the discovery process. Do get help for yourself. Dealing with a partner's sex addiction requires a level of emotional support that is beyond the life of most people. And the best way to deal with this is to seek assistance from people who understand what you're going through. This is somebody trauma informed. This is somebody who specializes in addiction. This is somebody who, understands your particular situation. Although the flip side of that is difficult because every time you try to find a mental health professional, it's like, okay, do they take my insurance? How long of a wait? Then if they do take your insurance and you do wait 2 months and you finally have an appointment and then you don't, match with them from a personality standpoint, you're like, oh my gosh, I'm not going to get much from this person because we just don't have the personality dynamic, but I've already invested this much time. Let me just go with it. So it could be frustrating as well. And I get that. So like I said, do get help for yourself, preferably if you guys are rebuilding. You both have somebody to talk to and you're coming together to talk to somebody as well. And this could be, support groups. I'd be very careful going to family and friends because although they're usually well-intended, they're usually misinformed. And they're also coming with a bias. They want what's best for you, and what they believe is best for you might be encouraging you to leave, and that's not really best for you. Or they might be encouraging you to stay, and that's not what's best for you. And oftentimes when you're talking to friends and family, they're bringing their own feelings and issues into the relationship. So if something happened in their life, they're going to be viewing your situation out of the skewed lens of something that they went through. Don't use sex to fix the problem. Now, we're all familiar with hyperbonding. That's not necessarily the name for it. That's what I call it. It's like, this need to engage sexually after an affair discovery. So while sexual intensity may feel good and intimate in the moment, using sex to assuage emotional pain is a form of mutual denial that moves you and your partner away from the process of healing. Sex sometimes is the great cover-up. It's like, especially for men, because men kind of like to fix things with sex. It's like, oh, we just connected sexually and physically, so all is good in the hood. And in a male-female relationship dynamic, that's not usually what happens. The women usually walk away feeling used, abused, taken advantage for, dirty, disrespected. In relationships, healthy sex is based on trust, and it's okay to hold off on sex until trust is restored. Do learn everything you can about sexual addiction. I mean, knowledge is power. This educational process helps you to better understand the sex addict and to make healthier decisions for you and your future. Again, regardless if you're rebuilding, reconciling, or going your own separate ways. Don't make any threats that you don't intend to carry out. I know this is tempting, and I know you probably already have done this if you're in this situation, but it doesn't help you and it doesn't help your situation at all. Now, you can certainly express, I'm torn. I don't know whether to stay or leave, but to threaten or use ultimatums, they don't work. And they wind up discrediting some of your validity. And that's the last thing you want to do, is feel discredited when you're also reeling with hurt and pain. If you tell your partner that any further cheating will cause you to leave, make sure you're ready and willing and intend to do so. Otherwise, you diminish your credibility. See, I just said that. It's usually best not to make threats at all. Say what you feel, but do not make threats that you will regret later. Certainly, you don't want your partner to cheat again. Certainly, you might leave, whatever. But threats sometimes will put your foot in your mouth, and then you're caught between a rock and a hard place of, okay, I really don't want to leave. I do see them having remorse, but I told them if they do this again, I'm leaving. So I got to hold, to my word. Now you're in a quandary. Do trust your feelings and observations. If you feel that you're being lied to or your partner is still cheating, trust your intuition. If you don't see your partner getting the ongoing help with his or her addiction, or they're attending, therapy or participating in a 12-step group or anything online, etc., then you can't trust that things are getting better, especially when it comes to addiction. Affairs are a little different, but especially when it comes to addiction, people just can't do it on their own. I mean, it's like somebody has a heroin addiction and then saying they can do it on their own. No, it's just not possible. Have one or two people have done it? Sure, but why jeopardize those odds? Why cheat those odds? Why question those odds? Why, what have you? Don't take blame for your partner's actions. I tell people all the time, bottom line, unless you're holding a gun to somebody's head, they make their own decisions and choices. Now, you could have contributed to the problems in the relationship, but what relationship doesn't have problems? You had nothing to do with them making the decision to step out of the relationship. So don't blame yourself for your partner's actions, especially when it comes to addiction. Taking responsibility for your partner's addiction is not helpful. Nothing you did or did not do can cause an addiction. This is something that 99.9% of the time they came into the relationship with. Doesn't matter how you've aged, how much weight you've gained or lost, how much you're involved with the kids or the work that you do, you're not responsible for your partner's addiction, period, end of sentence. This is a decision that the addict made on his or her own. Do expect to join your partner in therapy if you want to work things out. I say all the time that two injured people usually come to the marital table, and then they put expectations on their future spouse. I want you to heal my childhood injuries. I want you to heal my wounds. I want you to prove to me that there's good people. So we're giving our partners a job before we even say I do. Really, what we have to understand is we're all tall children. We all come to the marital table with injuries, and as frustrating as it is, sometimes making a commitment that you're going to help one another through these wounds to rebuild and move on is some of the best things that you can do for one another. It's likely that you want to find that you want a full accounting of your addict's partner's behavior. Obviously, I say all the time, it's very difficult to have peace if you don't have all the pieces. So you want to find out, as much information as possible. This type of disclosure is best occurs in the presence of a mental health professional. So hopefully it's somebody trauma informed. If there is a therapist or a coach present to help you in the process of this disclosure experience, you absolutely reduce the risk of further harm to both you and your relationship. Early on in my coaching career, and I'll just make a full disclosure, early on in my coaching career, I did a disclosure incorrectly, and it almost caused a divorce with the couple. I'm still working with that couple, believe it or not, and this is years later. I mean, they don't call me every week and every month. They do just 6-month check-ins here and there. But I did a disclosure incorrectly, and it almost caused them to divorce. And it was hard because the whole reason I do this is to heal people and to heal couples, and to know that I contributed to the hurt of a couple to the point where they almost separated. It was a good lesson. Anyways, obviously everybody got over it. They're very happy together now. They've rebuilt. I mean, they're having a great relationship. Like I said, they check in probably once every 6 months with me now. They're doing phenomenal. But definitely you have to go to somebody who's trauma informed and who's comfortable and knowledgeable doing disclosures. And lastly, I just want to say, don't stick your head in the sand. If you have an investment in your relationship, you can avoid the hard facts of your partner's ongoing addiction. Pretending the problem will go away on its own or not talking about it is tempting but ineffective. You need to address the issue head on. I think one of the biggest, most difficult things when we are healing after addiction, affair, infidelity, secrets, cheating, what have you, is undoing the story in our own mind of who we created this person to be. For example, somebody, hypothetically speaking, somebody was abused as a child, somebody was abandoned, somebody was neglected as a child. They grow up and they get attracted to somebody where they feel, wow, this person would never abandon me, never neglect me. Then they're together and we almost create a superhero in our mind. Oh my God, this is my Prince Charming, or this is the love of my life, and she, is my savior, or what have you. We create this, unfortunately, job for our spouse that they're going to save our childhood, they're going to save our life, they're going to redeem in me my thought that people are good. And then because they're human and because they're fallible, they do make mistakes, egregious ones at that, don't get me wrong. And then our whole perception is completely off. Not to mention, now we're questioning, oh my God, is my intuition off? Is my picker off? God, I prayed for this spouse and you told me this spouse was mine and this happened. Is there a God, or do I have a close relationship? I mean, it's questioning everything. But certainly, it's best to trust your intuition and speak to your spouse, talk to your partner, have these hard conversations, and just realize that no part of healing after infidelity, addiction, affairs, secrets, no part of it at all is fun or fair.